Hey everybody, how we doing? Sunnyvale Reject, aka Jason Stocks, back in the house for my friends and family with another little video that I hope you enjoy. Today we're going to look at 7 ultra quick, ultra thin masterpieces that you can read in a day, because ain't nobody got time for that crap. You guys are busy, I know it. There's a time and a place for an Anne Rice or a Michael Crichton or a Leo Tolstoy or a Dostoevsky. But if you're traveling or on the beach or at the pool or just chilling at the house on your day off like today, one of these books will be just what you need. Now listen, I always want to be positive, but today I come to you with kind of a heavy heart. We have got to pray for our brothers and sisters in North Carolina, in Tennessee, and everywhere else affected by this recent hurricane. There are cities that don't exist anymore. You guys have heard me talk about ancient architecture and the reset and the mud flood, and people are like, oh, you're crazy, that's a conspiracy theory. That could never happen. It's happening right now. Cities don't exist anymore. Rivers with houses and cars and trucks and caskets floating down them. One area, I think it was one area, was covered with 5 feet of dirt and gravel. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's crazy. I mean, it happens all the time, all over the world, and I'm sorry, I realize this now, but when it hits close to home is when you start to feel it. But let's pray for our brothers and sisters everywhere across this globe that need it, and let's come together. If you don't think we need each other, check this out. A dude in North Carolina the other day walked 30 miles to bring fresh drinking water back to his city. Let that sink in. All right, let's change the tune here and get positive, okay? Thank you, Shadyside Library, for the really cool, handmade, awesome bookmarks. I sent Shadyside Library a copy of my book. He's a super cool dude. I really appreciate what he does. He influenced me as a booktuber, and I really wanted his opinion on my book. I hold him in high regard, so I sent him a book, and he sent me in return a very cool letter with some awesome stickers, which I gave to my students, and 2 of his badass homemade, handmade bookmarks. He sells them on his channel. Guys, check them out. They're awesome, and they're unique looking, and they look cool in your book. Okay, enough. Let me take a sip of my coffee, and let's get to these books. That's right, they're very thin. You can read them in a day, and you'll carry away a great message, I promise you. Book 1, The Little Prince. The Little Prince. That's right. I know you've read it. I know you have. Everybody you know has read this book. Instant classic, loved all over the world. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. A pilot stranded in the desert awakes one morning to see, standing before him, the most extraordinary little fellow. Please, asks the stranger, draw me a sheep. And the pilot realizes that when life's events are too difficult to understand, there is no choice but to succumb to their mysteries. Give it a shot. You'll love it, and so will your children for generations to come. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, 1900, Frank L. Baum's classic that stood and continues to stand the test of time. I know everybody loves the movie. The movie's quite different than the novel, but give the novel a chance and you'll love it. I think the movie took the best parts of the book and kind of ran with it. But they go all over the place and encounter all different types of peoples in this book. And the message, the takeaway from this book is, it's a profound one. I've seen better copies but this, and I've seen worse copies, but this one's pretty cool. What happens when your life is swept away in the blink of an eye? The day began like any other for young Dorothy Gale, who lived on a farm in Kansas with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry. But little did she know that everything was about to change. You guys know where I'm going with this. This is a matte finish. Feels good in the hand. Looks pretty neat, Wizard of Oz, man. This book will keep you young at heart, just like watching the movie every year around Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Wizard of Oz, give it a shot. Eudora Welty, the Optimist's daughter. What is this? Come on, let's see. This comes in at a whopping 180 pages. Most of these books, I think only one's over 200 pages, but you're going to love her. Somehow it's image laden, but very, very, sparse prose. Not You don't get bogged down in too much detail, but just enough. But there's something very nostalgic about everything that she writes, and even though it harkens back to an older time when even technology and social norms were a little bit different, these still hit close to home. And I promise you, if you give her a shot, you'll like it. And it can be, yes, sort of a slow burn, but just invest in it. You'll take something away. Just know that risk versus reward is very high with Eudora Welty's work. And hell, she won the Nobel. Did she win the Pulitzer too? Yes, she did. She did win the Pulitzer. Can't go wrong. Eudora Welty. I used to live near her in Jackson, Mississippi. What's The Optimist's Daughter about, you ask? Well, it's the story of Laurel McKelvey Hand, a young woman who has left the South and returns years later to New Orleans, where her father is dying. After his death, she and her silly young stepmother go back still further to the small Mississippi town where she grew up. Alone in her old house, Laurel finally comes to an understanding of the past, herself, and her parents. This is a read from, say, West Palm Beach to New York. Being there, Jerzy Kosinski. Very sweet story about a gardener that's working for a man. The man dies. The gardener doesn't really know how to take it. He's kind of a lame brain, So he just takes a suit of clothes from his former boss's closet and walks around the city. He gets mistaken for all kinds of crazy people because there's something so subtle and unknown about this guy that he's got to be somebody very, very important. The shenanigans that ensue, legendary. Being there. Nice cover, nice font size, and it will, let's see, this is, my gosh, come on, 140 pages. You can read it in one sitting, and then take to the rest of the day processing it. Being There is a modern classic, one of the most popular and significant works from a writer of international stature. He wrote The Painted Bird and Cockpit, both amazing. It is the story of Chauncey Gardner, Chance, an enigmatic but distinguished man who emerges from nowhere to become an heir to the throne of a Wall Street tycoon. Come on, man. Anna Kavan, Ice. Science fiction, surreal science fiction masterpiece. Comes in at, I think this is the longest book. It comes in at 182, and then there's an afterword. This was written, I think in 1967 at the height of the Cold War. It was the author's last book, and everybody's at war, and there's these big ice sheets impending, coming down on the people. But the narrator, written by a woman, narrated by a man, is looking for this woman right here in the midst of all the chaos. Wonderful, hallucinatory book. You'll catch yourself wondering what's real and what's imagined. Give it a shot. You'll love it. And then maybe you'll go back and check out some of her other books. Because have you ever heard of her? Have you ever heard of this book? Remember, there's a lot of great writers out there and a lot of amazing books that you've yet to hear of. I had to face that fact. I thought I knew it all because I was reading Dostoevsky and Hemingway and Faulkner and all those guys, like I've said. Proust, Swann's Way, Anna Karenina. I thought I had it all figured out. I didn't know that Point Horror, Fear Street, Goosebumps, or even some of these books here existed. So you don't ever want to be arrogant about being an apt reader or an astute or voracious reader, because somebody could ask you a question about a book that's amazing and you never heard of it and you look stupid right off the bat. And it's a matter of taste and timing. A masterpiece of literary science fiction, conjuring a dazzling and haunting vision of the end of the world. In a frozen, apocalyptic landscape, destruction abounds, great walls of ice overrun the world, and secretive governments vie for control. It's ice, and there's a lot more to it than that, baby. Give it a shot. Heart of Darkness, Joseph Conrad. Deep, dark trip to the Congo. As scary today as it was then. And we as Americans read this in school at some point, middle school or early high school, 9th or 10th grade. And I don't even think we can understand its implications then. You should read this in college and study it deeply. And then read it for fun later as an adult, because if you don't have any kind of pre-lesson knowledge, let's just say, or historical context about the book or whatever, a lot of the things will just go right over your head and you'll miss out on a lot, and the message isn't the same. When you're done reading, you got to interpret it all and pick up on the author's context clues and his purpose and the historical context. Like, was there a war going on? What was going on when this was written? To be able to get it all. I should be loyal to the nightmare of my choice. It is the 1890s aboard a yawl on the River Thames. Here among the seamen, veteran Charlie Marlowe recounts his expedition up a different waterway into the heart of the African Congo. Hired to pilot a steamboat upriver, the new captain's optimism quickly dims as he encounters the brutal realities of the enterprise. When word spreads that a shadowy figure is jeopardizing the company's interest, Marlowe must slog deeper into the jungle. Hostile, well, to say the least, I'm sure. But think about that as he's going deeper into the jungle and deeper into this river. Is he really going deeper and deeper into his own psyche? Probably. Give it a shot. You'll love it. And it is, come on, baby, this is only 129 pages. If you don't have the time in your life to read a 129-page masterpiece, quit your job today. Tell them you're out of there. Go straight to a bookstore. All right, I'm shutting up. Final book in today's video is The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. One of the first literary horror books. Literary horror sounds weird, but I think it is. Excuse me. One of the earliest literary horror books I ever read, and right from the get-go, the narrator, excuse me, the narrator tells the reader that he's murdered several children. And the end has a twist that I wasn't really expecting, but ties it all up together and explains a lot that until that point you're really wondering about. But it's a thin little book, and it is spooky as hell and relentless and does not hold back. This book is 178 pages. Do this for yourself. Get this book. Ian Banks from Scotland, right? He wrote 5 novels before this got published, over 1 million words. And in his interviews, he's a real upbeat, vigorous man. And I like hearing him talk about being a little bit jealous that some people get published their first book. But this guy paid his dues like a independent band that travels little underground clubs handing out their demo tapes. He worked his ass off until he made it. And this book skyrocketed him to stardom. The Wasp Factory. It should be in the canon everywhere, from high schools and colleges all over the world. Let's see. One of the top 100 novels of the century. Meet Frank Caldum, just 16, and unconventional to say the least. 2 years after I killed Blythe, I murdered my young brother Paul, for quite different and more fundamental reasons than I disposed of Blythe. And then a year after that, I did for my young cousin Esmeralda, more or less on a whim. That's my score to date, 3. I haven't killed anybody for years and don't intend to ever again. It was just a stage I was going through. Boy, he says that with no feeling at all. Those people scare me when you're watching court cases and, the person's not showing any remorse, no feelings at all, and the family's crying. And they don't usually show feelings until they get sentenced. And the reality of the consequences of what they've done sets in. Because you can be a badass on the streets, trust me. But in prison, there is always somebody stronger. And you don't want to go to prison. The Wasp Factory. Ian Banks. The protagonist of this book should be in prison. But like I said, the twist is going to really, it's mind-bending at the end. Well worth it. And again, you're talking about, 178-page book. No, wait, it's 100. Let's check it out for real now. 184 pages. You can't go wrong. Guys, that's it. I'm shutting up. Today's Thursday. There's no school. So I'm going to get out there and have some fun with my baby boy. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Listen, let me take the time to thank each and every one of you guys. I'm at 599 subscribers. I'm about to hit 600. It is all because of you. You guys have changed my life. I love being a part of this community. I love hearing from you guys, and I love sharing my books. Thank you so much for everything. Now get out there, stay cool, and have a wonderful day.